almost there. No way. What is this? You're tuned in to the Eyes Open podcast, where secrets aren't safe and we see it all.
Ladies and gentlemen, as always, I hate to be the bearer of bad news and to ruin this day for, the people out there that say, oh, Valentine's Day is, the day for lovers. Well, I guess, they say life is what you make it, but sorry to tell you guys, there's some dark occultic roots to this holiday that we all celebrate called Valentine's Day. Now, I wouldn't say as far as, I'm the type, of course, being married, I don't need Valentine's Day to buy my wife flowers. I can buy her flowers anytime, but, Valentine's Day comes around, I'll get my daughter some candy, get the wife some candy and some flowers, stuff like that. But there's some people that, they go all out for Valentine's Day. They'll go and buy I've seen people buy their wives new cars and big diamond rings, and they go all out for the occasion. And what I thought was interesting, I think I've talked about this before on a show, that somebody said the holidays line up with the 7 deadly sins, and then I guess Valentine's Day would be the holiday of the sin of lust, essentially. But see, that's more so, I would say, just some theory somebody came up with. That's, when you look at it and you base all the holidays, like they say Christmas is greed, Valentine's Day is lust, Thanksgiving is gluttony. They go through the whole list of all of them, and I can see what they mean. It kind of lines up, and it's a cool little theory to think of, but I wouldn't say it's something that I would bet the bank on or say that there's a whole bunch, of evidence to support that. But what there is evidence to support is, for the people out there that don't know, Valentine's Day comes from what's called Lupercalia. Now, Lupercalia is a Roman festival. They did sacrifices of all different types of animals, dogs and goats and, stuff like that. And it was just a crazy festival that they had in Rome. Now, if you look deep into the things of Valentine's Day, it starts to make a little bit more sense, and things get kind of more creepier than you thought, because there was things that, until I really started to study not just holidays, but the world around me, because we're all, for example, we've always talked about the world always appears a certain way. I was talking to Kevin Annette about this when I had him on the show. And I said, essentially, there's a point in our lives when the veil gets lifted. For some people, it partially gets lifted. It slowly gets lifted. And then for some of us, I would say it just like the blinders just get taken off, and then everything kind of rushes in and you're like, whoa, the world really hits you like a ton of bricks. And for me, that's how it was. The veil didn't get pulled slowly for me. It was like a rush when I first learned about the occultic origin of a lot of the stuff in the world, and including holidays. But for me, it started with, it was a long, drawn out few days, but it was me studying the back of our money. Now, this was like 2008, 2007 or 2008. And I was studying the back of a dollar. Now, I had heard of, secret societies and all this type of stuff before. 9/11 is what really woke me up to what was going on in the world. But when I was looking at the back of our money, and I was really thinking, I'm like, why is there a pyramid on the back of our money? So once I went down that rabbit hole, it was over with. Like, within 2 days, like the blinders had completely come off, and I was shocked. I was like, there's no way this is really what the world is. There's no, this can't be true. And the further I went down the rabbit hole, the more I started to see things for what they are. But I mean, and it's everywhere. That's the wild thing, is when you really see things for what they are, the world, everything just, you're blown away. You can't even enjoy anything anymore in a sense, because everything you look at, you're just like, man, is it in everything? And, I hate to say it, half the time it really is. You can't enjoy movies no more. You can't enjoy music as much anymore, because there's always a hidden meaning in everything now. And if you're looking for it, it's there. But that's why I guess they throw the old saying, ignorance is bliss, because they figure people don't know, they don't want to know, they don't care to know. If they ignore it, it doesn't exist. It's the old, oh, I'll just ignore it and it don't exist type of thing. But it's all there. Now, another interesting thing is, think about what is one of the staples of Valentine's Day. One of the staples is the cherub, right? The cherub with the wings and the arrow, okay? And if he hits you with that arrow, you fall in love with somebody, like they show the whole, in a cartoon, or we all know what it is. So the little cherub guy hits you with the arrow, and you fall in love with whoever you'd fall in love with. And here's the thing is, which is interesting, because it's a cherub with wings. Okay. So it's a little cherub guy. Essentially, it's an angel. It's a cherub. Now, what does the Bible say about who else was a cherub? Lucifer was an anointed cherub, because for people that know, angels in the Bible, there's different levels of angels. There's archangels, there's the seraphim, there's different levels of angels. Well, Lucifer was an anointed cherub. So I find it very interesting that, being that Valentine's Day comes from an old occultic festival, and a Roman occultic festival, that they chose this cherub to be the mascot, so to speak, of this holiday. So I don't see, and honestly, like I said, people say, oh, coincidence. Well, at this point, there's just coincidences everywhere, because everything's becoming a freaking coincidence. And I'm sorry, I don't believe in coincidences. Not when they all just start lining up left and right. But I mean, I can't slight people for saying, they're going to go out and get something for their wife, because people are used to doing that. But it's just wild to know that we are entertaining and partaking in rituals that go way back without even realizing it. And that's why Valentine's Day is not just, for example, it's not just a day of joy. People think it's like a day of joy, or they take their woman out, or they go on a special trip with them, or whatever. But think about it. For the people that don't have anybody, for the single people, it can be a real bad energy type of day, because everybody else, they're watching all these lovers going around, and love is in the air, so to speak. But they're like, hey, I don't have anybody. So for some people, Valentine's Day can be a very negative day. And I found it interesting too that they had, what was it? The St. Valentine's Day Massacre was on Valentine's Day, which is where, for the people that don't know what that is, Al Capone was taking out some rivals, okay? And what they did was, his hitmen dressed up as cops, lured them all into a warehouse, lined them up against a brick wall like they were all going to get arrested, and they were going to get frisked and everything, and they pulled out Tommy guns and they just mowed them all down. Now, when I went to Vegas, I actually seen the what was it? The the Valentine's Day Massacre wall. They have it inside of the mob museum there, because me and my wife went to the mob museum, which is it's pretty crazy place, like how they have that place set up in there. But yeah, we went to the mob museum, and this is what I found very strange. Like when we were going through this museum and they had that wall. Now the wall still has the bullet holes in it, and like the blood, looks the actual blood stained bullet holes of that wall. So I guess they took this wall apart and put it right back together in this museum, and it's in there. The craziest thing is, and I've noticed this in certain places that I go to, like for me at least, and I thought I was the only one until my wife said it. When you go into this room, because there's separate rooms, you go into this room where it was at, I couldn't stand too close to this wall or even really in that room, because I was getting like dizzy, like my eyes were going to roll back in my head. I felt like I was going to faint. And I thought it was just me, and something was just like, get away from that wall. So I had to get away from that wall, and I'm standing over in the other room, and my wife was even asking me, she says, why aren't you in there, looking at that wall, I figured that would have been something that would have been interesting to you. I'm like, and I explained to her, and she's like, whoa. She's like, I thought it was just me. Like, I get lightheaded and feel weird when I'm around that wall too. Like, I can't get near it. So that was pretty strange. That was something that was pretty strange, that when we went to the museum like that, I couldn't get near that wall too much, or in that room. It just felt, the energy felt off. It was weird. But yeah, I found it, interesting that, they picked that day to carry out a massacre like that. And that was known ever since the Valentine's Day Massacre. That was known for forever. I mean, even the rapper 50 Cent, which was weird too, is I guess he had to rename it The Massacre, his album, because they wouldn't allow him to call it. He released it on Valentine's Day. They wouldn't allow him to call it the Valentine's Day Massacre. He had to rename it The Massacre. I forget what the reason behind that was. But yeah, I mean, there's not just this love energy, because there's like a duality to Valentine's Day, and it's there if you see it. There's the love and the hate that kind of is fighting against each other in this holiday. But I mean, there's also, when you think about it, Valentine's Day is not just a day where, men take their wives out or take care of their wives. I mean, there's a lot of adultery that goes on Valentine's Day. So I'm sure, like I said, the evil spreads in this holiday at that same point with that. Valentine's Day, we all know. I mean, you think there's guys out there with mistresses and stuff that aren't making sure their women they're cheating with are getting their gifts and their stuff. So I would imagine, again, energy runs high with adultery on Valentine's Day as well. But we give our energy, we give our time, we give our attention to these holidays without thinking twice about what they represent, where they come from. And I've explained this before, that what we embrace, they said, I forgot how they explained this. What we embrace as a society would send a medieval peasant running in terror. So essentially, like the symbols, just simple symbols that we embrace would send a medieval peasant running in terror. Because see, back in the day, only the wealthy could read. So essentially, if only the wealthy could read, the peasants had to live based off of symbols that were around them. That's how they communicated, because they couldn't read. But nowadays, with everybody can read, people don't look so much into the symbolism of things. Okay, and I believe it was Confucius, or was somebody a long time ago had said it. They said it's pretty much symbols I think he said symbols and numbers that rule the world, the way they explained it. Somebody, I'm sure in the comments can correct me on that one, but I know it was Confucius. I'm pretty sure it was Confucius. But people don't realize that all of the stuff that's around us, it really ties in more between the holidays, between these symbols all around us. It ties more into what's going around you and the type of energy that you're bringing into your life more than you even realize. And people don't think twice about it. They just go right ahead and, you know, they embrace it. It's the same thing with, I've never understood why people will go over to Jerusalem, okay, which, mind you, I have no problem. Like, if I go over to Jerusalem or I go anywhere or, you know, based on history, this is a whole nother, you know, road to go down. I'm not going to get into this road yet about, you know, if the Jews that are in Israel are actually the actual Jews of the Bible, the actual Israelites. I'm not going to get into that because that's a whole nother topic that we can get into. But even if I go over there, even if, you know, these are real Jewish people that live their religion, okay, I've never understood when people go over there, they put yarmulkes on, okay, and they go and they kiss a wall and do stuff like that. Like, why? If you're a Christian or that's not your religion, why are you doing that? I've never understood that. They don't come around, they don't come to a Christian community and say, oh, I'm going to put a cross on and I'm going to go into your church even though I'm Jewish and I'm going to go worship Christ just for that time being. I'm just going to go do that. They don't do that for us as Christians. So I've never understood why people embrace things that they know God would not want you to embrace. God turned away from the Israelites, being that they turned away from him when they turned away from his son, Jesus Christ. So I don't know why we don't look at it as, you know, people tend to just embrace things because they don't want to, quote unquote, stir the pot or start trouble. Oh man, trust me, I won't just stir the pot. Like I said, I'll splash it, flip it, turn it over. Like I don't care. I'm not afraid to do it. I'm the one who's not afraid to do it. That's probably why they removed me off YouTube in the first place, because they're like, this guy, man, he's in a sense, and that's what's weird is like the Fuenteses and all these people can, you know, speak vile and they don't get removed. But when I start dropping truth bombs, they're like, yeah, nah, this guy's out of control. We got to get him out of here. And it's not out of control for the wrong reasons. I'm not. And that's what I found the funniest thing is, okay? Speaking of Valentine's Day and speaking of love, okay? I got love for everybody, okay? I don't care if you're gay, straight, black, white, green, purple, Jewish, whatever you are. I got love for everybody. But I'm not going to play along to get along, okay? I'm going to still continue to speak the truth. So if the truth that I'm speaking bothers you, then we got a problem. Because, you know, I don't expect you to automatically jump on anything that I believe in. I don't expect you to turn into a Christian overnight. You know, I might have to plant seeds until some people get it or understand. So I'm not forcing myself on you. But it's weird. The world tries to force itself on me and my beliefs, what I've noticed. And it's like really weird. It's like I'm simply stating what I believe, how I think, and that's it. We're not even able to form our own opinions anymore without getting our freaking heads chopped off, you know, verbally or and some people literally for their beliefs right now are getting their heads chopped off in other countries. I mean, it's crazy. People can't even have their own beliefs anymore. That's what it is. It's like you can have any beliefs are respected. Have you guys ever realized that? So you can go ahead with all these holidays. You can go ahead with, you know, all this paganism that's going around. You can go around and be a devil worshiper. You can go around and be anything right now. And they say, oh, respect that person. Respect that person, their beliefs. Okay? Oh, they're gay. They're so brave. Oh, respect their beliefs. Oh, but but they're a Christian. Oh no, man, shovel dirt on them, man. Throw stones at that person. Like it's insane. Are we the only group of people that it's okay and it's almost trendy to hate us for no reason? Like I said, I don't hate nobody. I have no reason to hate nobody. I don't want to hate nobody. Jesus tells me that, they'll know you're my disciples by how you love one another. And just like, for example, in English, there's only one word for love. Okay. In Greek, what the Bible was originally translated into, there's multiple words for love, like an erotic type of love, or the love of God, what they call the agape love. Okay, that's the highest love there is. That's the agape love. So it's interesting to know that in Greek there's multiple words. There's multiple words for love, because love is not just straightforward. There's different kinds of love. You love your wife differently than you love your children. So love is different. But see, in English, it's weird. We only have one word for love. That's it. But it's things just can't be compacted like that into just one word. So I think the Greeks had it better in that sense, to where, it was multiple words, because it depended on the type of love you were speaking about, because there is different types of love. And another thing, we are definitely in the falling away, because this is becoming more and more trendy too. People are like, oh, his name wasn't Jesus Christ. It's not Jesus Christ. Please do me a favor, people, okay? Before you embarrass yourselves any further, because one day you're going to find the right one. It ain't going to be me, because I'm not going to argue with you, okay? I'm just going to block you. But one day you're going to find the right one that will totally eviscerate you with facts, okay? Go learn, okay? Just like that moron, the fittest flat earther guy, whatever his name is, says that, oh, Jesus means Hail Zeus. Well, see, this is how it works, okay? Go look up what transliteration is, okay? What that means. Because, for example, if the Bible was written in Greek and translated from Greek into English, okay? If you said God, okay, and you were saying Zeus because that was their god, that was the ultimate god to them. If they're looking at a book and they're like, hey, how do we explain this person who we're seeing in here, Yeshua HaMashiach, how do we know in here to explain this in English? Okay, you can go look this up on YouTube. There's somebody who did a very good explanation on transliteration, because people don't understand how transliteration works, okay? Jesus comes from Zeus because that was their god. So that's why it translated into, like, you'll see a Mexican person, Jesus, okay? Because they were trying to explain in English, because obviously there's no J's in Hebrew. So they're trying to explain how that name would come off. So Yeshua HaMashiach translated into English would be Jesus the Christ, or Jesus Christ. And people will try to debate that all day or say whatever. Well, then how come it casts out demons to this day, that name? How come Jesus Christ still holds so much power when it's said and used? Jesus Christ of Nazareth. How come it holds so much power? But people, because see, they're trying so hard, okay? So hard to get you guys to run away with all these crazy type of ideals. The same way they're trying to pull you guys into these holidays and to celebrating these holidays. These people put more emphasis on a simple holiday that some man made up, that actually, like I proved to you, comes from an ancient pagan ritual, ceremony, festival. And they put so much emphasis on that instead of emphasis on making sure that your life, your family, everything is Christ-centered. That's wild. If people put half of the energy into Jesus, okay, into following the one true God, and into getting their house in order, getting their finances in order, really standing up for their rights in this country because they're losing it left and right. If they even put a fraction, okay, of the energy into that they put into sports, man, the type of revolution, you know, in multiple facets that would happen literally overnight in this world and in the United States would be amazing. Okay. If they even put, I'll give you another one, a fraction of the amount of energy they put into politics and arguing about politics, into actually doing something with their lives and making a change, I could only imagine how many people's lives would change for the better. But they don't. People continue to argue over everything. People continue to, like I'd said, like the shirt I made up that I wear, that I had for my show and was given out. It says, people want to be right more than they want the truth. And I explained this yesterday in a reel. People have a problem, this was in yesterday's episode. People have a problem with being able to take on new information, okay, process it, and if it conflicts with their ideals, you know, you would obviously, it's new information that conflicts with what you believed. You find it to be true, so you change your mind. People don't do that. They're so stubborn, they will die with the ideals that they have. No matter what, they don't care. They'll go down with that ship. They have no problem doing it. And that's what I'm saying is, that's why I'm going to literally, every time a holiday like this comes up, especially when, for example, when I have some very special stuff coming up for Easter, or should we say Ishtar festival they have. But Easter is going to be very interesting. I have a very interesting, I'm going to have to do, it's going to be, because see, I'd explained to people before, for the Passover times, what I do is, we celebrate in my house, or I call Resurrection Weekend. We don't celebrate Easter, no bunnies, none of that crap. What we do is we study the Bible, we get together as a family, we watch movies that are religious-based movies about the Bible, stuff like that. I think last year we watched the 10 Commandments with Charlton Heston, was a pretty good old classic. But yeah, so for that weekend, what I do is, on the show, one day I'll do an Easter episode and do the origins of Easter and really what the bunnies, all that stuff means. But then the other 2 days is about the biblical backing of, you know, the true Passover, what had happened with Jesus's death, resurrection. I go over a lot of that stuff. So that episode coming up is going to be pretty interesting to watch. I think you guys are going to like that. But even before that, we still have the St. Patrick's Day. That's going to be another good one that I'm going to do, where a lot of that stuff in St. Patrick's Day that people celebrate comes from. But I just think that people need to, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't think they're putting big emphasis on these holidays and stuff like that. But, you know, we just got to really think. That's all I'm saying is, think about what you're celebrating. Really break it down. Really take a look at it. And that's it. Is just keep your eyes open and your mind open to asking yourself, what is really going on with these holidays? What am I really celebrating?